Hey everyone, we are back. We're back for the final session of Compete Week. My second coffee of the morning just hit me, so I'm buzzing. I'm ready to go. And I got four awesome speakers joined with me. And what are we talking about today? Let's be real. First things first, most CI teams, compete teams, product marketing teams are small. They're lean, but the mandate is massive. You got your execs, they want strategy. We just talked a lot about win-loss insights being needed. You've got sellers, they want live deal support, and everyone wants an answer faster. So, how can you scale the impact while having a lean team without burning yourselves out? That's exactly what we're going to dig into today. We're going to get very, very tactical. You're going to hear from four awesome compete leaders who are figuring out how this actually works, sharing some stories, some wins, maybe some learnings too. So, let's meet the panel quickly. We have Rich from Armis, we've got Odhran from Cresta, we got Andrew from Fleetio, and we have Sara from HSI. Andrew and Sara also hanging out in the Klue office today too. So it's awesome to have you here in person. We got a little hybrid mix here. Should we just get straight into the content here? The first question of the day.
Let's
I'm
do
going to
it.
put one to you, Rich, to start. If you are starting a compete program from scratch today, what's the advice of the first things to do and set up, and what mistakes should people avoid?
Love it. You know, when you're first starting out, you really want to prove your value, and you think, I'm just going to go into the lab and build a ton of stuff so the field will love me, right? I'm a lot more sales focused. The reality here is that you want to build a community, right? So your stakeholders are so important on what they actually want to see. So you could build the best content in the world, and if they're not looking at it, they don't know where it actually exists, then it doesn't exist in terms of competitive positioning. So the single thing that I would start with is just get your stakeholders, build that community, and really focus on how they do their work and how they position, where they're working from today, and where they can get the best competitive intel for where they want to work.
Or what you got?
Yeah, I actually really like Rich's point there, where it's like kind of first-time founders care about product, repeat founders care about distribution. It's kind of the same with compete people. Like distribution is kind of the thing that we all live and die on at the end of the day. But like maybe on top of that, I think that there can be a temptation to get too cute with it, to do too much and over-engineer things out the gate, kind of like what Rich was getting to. But if you just go and start by putting out the fires that you see in your sales team, right? Talking to a few of them, seeing where they're falling down on deals, seeing who's coming up, and addressing those needs first qualitatively without trying to overanalyze things. That's where you can start making the most impact, the most quickly, at least in my experience.
How do you know which fire's burning brightest? What does that look like, especially if you're coming in and there's like that? I think Rich, you mentioned that itch to do everything. It's like, what's the thing that needs to get water dumped on first?
It's the thing about fire. It's kind of hard to miss. You know, it's like when you talk to people, they'll tell you, right? Like it's as simple as that, right? If you sit down with 3-4 salespeople, you'll get a pretty good, no matter how big your team is, you'll get a pretty good sense at that point. You'll start to spot some commonalities in the complaints they're bringing up, in the themes that they're bringing up, and where they're struggling. It's just, there's gonna be 1 or 2 things that are big and easy to solve, and ways that you can make an impact really, really quickly. And that's kind of, it's a case of just talking to people to find out what those are.
Did Andrew or Sara, did you have that sort of experience of like, oh, I can see a fire that's burning, like this is where we should start?
Yeah, I think as he said, like the fire, it's hard to miss. And also, I think when you're starting, it's a little bit everywhere. And so it's kind of about prioritization as well. And this is one of those like do as I say, not as I do, because I started with like, let's cover the top 20. And that's a little bit insane. And by the time you get to the end, the first one's a little bit out of date. And so I think it's one, like, yeah, find where those fires are, but it's also take a step back and like pull yourself out of that momentary panic of like, this is the top competitor, and think about like, what are the threads in all of these fires? Like, I think a really great place to start is looking at types of competitors, because they share a lot of stuff in common, and it's easier to enable around like, hey, these 5 competitors all share this one trait, versus let me profile the intricacies of competitor A, B, and C's products and how they're different, and you should memorize that and be ready to run with that. It's more about just giving them the tools to then go off and do it on their own.
What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, for us, it was the same thing. We started off with like our top 5 competitors that we knew we wanted to really penetrate and get those customers on our side. And what we did is we made really pointed battle cards where it was like super easy talk tracks where we gave them like 1 or 2 points of we know exactly why we could win against these competitors, which made it really easily digestible for our sellers, and they really appreciated that. They hate jargon, they hate like sifting through a lot of information. So I feel like that really worked for us. And I think on one of the biggest mistakes that people should avoid is just to make sure to know that like your CI program is not a one-way street. Like be sure to keep engaging with your stakeholders. I always go to like our sellers, our reps. I have like conversations with them. They know they can message me at any time if they have information or if they see things. And I always try to bring that back into our battle cards. And I actually think that they just believe in the information that we have, and they actually tend to use it a little bit more. So just make sure to know it's like a two-way street and it's all about collaboration.
Rich, how long have you been running the competitive intelligence function at Armis?
That's so funny. I've been running it for 4 years now, and we went from 1 product to 7 products, and probably 7x the amount of salespeople, right? So, and there's only 1 competitive person. So this is near and dear to my heart.
This is I didn't mean to trigger you there, but now this is cool as well. I think for you've been there for 4 years, so you've kind of got a strong like muscle around Armis, but you mentioned explosion of your own product line and likely new competitor sets. And also there's like this, like we've talked about throughout this whole event, this like technological wave as well of how people are working, learning. Like if you could go back in time, is there like one thing that you would do differently now if you were starting up back then?
Yeah, the one thing is that I wanted to show my value, and I wanted to be a perfectionist, and I wanted to build essentially a dissertation on each of our competitors. Right. And as Sara mentioned, right, like going into making it digestible and consumable, really focusing on what they want to see, where they want to see it is most important.
Sara, you mentioned as well, you sort of like okay, like how do we demonstrate value? And you mentioned talk tracks and those pieces. Like, how did you ensure that those landed? Like, what did that look like to build that value? Actually, to get into the weeds, to be like, oh, I can actually help you in this moment, or the big fire that Odhran mentioned is burning.
Yeah, so I'm a really big believer that nothing happens behind the desk. So we have like a huge win-loss program. Even if I'm at conferences, I'm speaking to our customers. I'm reaching out to them like on LinkedIn just to kind of get a glimpse into their world. So I try to put in like real life applicable scenarios, even things from like case studies that I learned into our battle cards. And our sellers love these stories. Like the more stories we can embed, instead of just like facts or like why we win, the better. So that's what I try to do. I try to take all of our information from like win-loss, gong calls, all that kind of stuff, and regurgitate it and then bring it back to our sellers.
Let's pivot a little bit here too. I think you kind of teed us up well here, Rich, of team of 1, lots of products, lots of comparisons. How big are everyone's teams here right now, by the way? I'd love or what's the size of your compete team?
Grand total of 1, but this is my time for a plug. I am hiring, so it'll be 2 sometime soon.
I love that. Andrew, what about you?
1.5, so it's me plus an intern. I'm lucky.
You got that 0.5. And then Sara, what about you? What about yourself?
Yeah, just me.
So perfect. And I'm pretty confident that a lot of folks in attendance are going to be in that similar situation to you all. And that's kind of where this like AI, automation, building systems that scale really comes into play here for all of you. So I'll start with, let's go, Andrew. I'm going to start with you here. Where are you actually using AI or agents or automation today? What's paid off the most? And where are you not using it?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest area that I'm using AI is like those one-off requests that we all kind of, I don't want to use the word hate, but we don't love because they pull us out of the flow. They're not super high value. And at the end of the day, it's like maybe going to enable like one or a couple of deals, but they're still important because it shows that you're responsive and that you care. And so it's sort of a trust building exercise. And so where previously it would have been like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to give it like E in terms of effort, and just like kind of throw together a couple of facts. Now I use Klue AI. And so in research mode, you can kind of pull together a couple of facts. Then rather than me being like trying to pull together all this stuff from Google, I'm more of an editor and I can lay in, here's my perspective based on like what I'm seeing about the product, about their sales process, so on and so forth. So that's where I'm using AI. As far as where I'm not using it, I think it's more of jumping into the details and really building out the strategy of how we approach competitors. So I think that's where like the personnel piece of it is still really key. So in the newsletters that I send out, like the story is summarized, but then like why does it matter? That's coming from me, and I think that's it's good because it sharpens my sword. Every 2 weeks I'm telling this story of like, here's what's happening, here's our position on it, here's how it relates to like the actions that we're taking. And I think that's good because it shows that like you're invested in telling that story and in shaping like, hey, what if we're not planning for this thing that is on a competitor's recently released roadmap?
That is, I like that one. Are other folks kind of doing something similar on these kind of one-off requests that often maybe would have taken a couple hours off the time? Oren, I see you nodding.
Yeah, it's really similar to what Andrew said. It really frees up a lot of your time that you would otherwise spend kind of, I don't want to say spoon feeding, but taking the information that already lives there and parsing it in response to a question that's being asked. So just being able to respond to someone in Slack and bring in the Ask Klue sort of like feature there to get it to answer them live where everyone else can see it, it sort of builds the muscle as well. That, right, hey, the information you're looking for, you can actually go and do this self-service and get it in Klue. And I think that's really, really powerful to just get people into the platform and using it more.
Rich, what are you doing in terms of this kind of like AI and automation to support scale? I mean, 7 product lines. I don't even know how your brain can wrap yourself around all of that.
It's difficult, but I think it really comes down to the basics of it all. A lot of the questions that I get are do we have competition or competitive intel on X, Y, and Z? Essentially, from going from that to having all of, Ask Klue and going into the response of that to now being 40% of all of the workflows. So I don't get that question anymore. Right? People aren't asking me, how do we compete against this particular competitor? They go there, they ask, they go into Slack, they go into Klue itself, they go into Salesforce, and they could access that competitive intel. And all the focus after that is on actual prioritization of new competition from there.
What about yourself, Sarah?
Yeah, that's the same thing that we do too. We've turned on like AI pricing. We've just turned on the AI Klue's agents as well. And we're just starting the integration between like Klue and ChatGPT. We've noticed that a lot of resellers would kind of go rogue a little bit there. So now that we have an enterprise ChatGPT, we're like, okay, we have to make this connection so they don't go rogue. I feel like ChatGPT is really great to give you like a lot of fluff and maybe some of like the baseline, but you still have to vet it out a little bit. So we're really excited that you guys came out with that feature. So, and then like Andrew said, for like the digest and things that I want to send out, it is coming personally from me. You want to have that personal touch. Nobody knows your product better than you. So it's great that AI can kind of lay out that 70% foundational level, but you still need to add in the 30%.
Are other folks, this is an interesting one too, right? Because scalability systems, but at the same time, if we think about like how technologies change, everyone kind of has their personal assistant with GPT right now. And we also know that the reliability of those answers can be mixed. And when we're in a CI profession and trust and accuracy are like non-negotiable mandates, how are you navigating that part? Like it's in terms of, hey, I see your self-serving is less pings to me, but making sure that they're using reliable sources, they're using intel that's provided and necessary. Andrew, is that something that's been like navigating on your side?
Yeah, grinds my gears, keeps me up at night. Yeah, I think the big thing is like, why are they doing it? So it's because they want to like quickly get the answer, and they want to have like a convincing response to hopefully help them close the deal. So understanding that, I think, is foundation number one. And then foundation number two is like, okay, I'm aligned with you. I know that you want to get a response quickly. I know that you want to have like a good response. Let's guide you to the best or the happiest path for that. So personal example, we have an SDR manager in our company who, before Klue's GPT and like AI functionality came out, it was like I would see all the time these like competitive comparisons, and I was like, awesome. It's not like we have those somewhere, but again, it's like the information is there, but it's not in the best format. So instead, I think it's more about like gently nudging people in the right direction. Hey, SDR manager, I see that you have this. I think it's a great starting point, but let me show you what you can do and why it's better if you use a GPT that has the right context and is pulling from like our established knowledge base. And so I think that's the story. And it's like never going to be fun, but I think the more that you can show value and show like, hey, this maybe takes you 5 seconds longer, but on the margins, it gives you a much better answer. That's kind of the win.
Rich and Odhran, is that something that you two have been navigating yourselves as well?
100%, yeah. And it's, again, very similar to what Andrew said, being able to give people a system that they can go where you know and they know, you both have that peace of mind that the answer they get is going to come from sourced information, from things that you've published, or from things that Klue has scraped from gone calls or closed won deals or whatever it may be. But the info that it works from is guardrailed. It's there. It's things that you know are correct, or that you know are real based on your environment, in your business. That just makes a massive difference in terms of peace of mind. We don't see the effect as often of sellers going to a GPT and kind of going gung-ho a little bit, at least. I don't think we do. It hasn't come through to my desk as of yet, but you got me worrying now.
You're lucky. Yeah, I think from my side, you really have to embrace where the industry is moving, but you shouldn't throw away what you have today and what you've built out for me for 4 years.
Rich, talk to me about sort of the system as well that you built. Like this I think you mentioned, and even when we talked before, like building like sort of foundational systems at scale. What are the sort of inputs, things that you're doing that then allows you to be less in the weeds at all times, and that you have something that you think is, I think everyone's like mentioned, like vetted, reliable, compared to sellers pulling from gosh knows where.
Yeah. I think again the foundation for the field is Ask Klue is everywhere, and Slack, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's 40% of all of the interactions that I have inside of Klue today. So it's a huge number, and that allows the field to kind of think about the basics of AI in general, but the tools themselves, as we think about not just product related competitive, there's sellers and win-loss and things like your SEO. So thinking about bringing all those tools together is so important to think about competition as a whole.
Let's talk about specifically deal support, competitive deal support. I know we just mentioned a little bit on these kind of one-off pieces. Are there other challenges you faced as that small team, and what's worked best for you to scale insights, and not just to support, but insights that are going to be very helpful to win a deal as well? Sarah, like, I'll kick it to you to start.
Yeah, before we even got on with we didn't have a competitive intelligence tool before. And what was happening in our organization was the loudest seller would say like, oh my God, we need this feature now because we just lost this, X amount of deal. And then executives would be scrambling with product to like put it on the roadmap. And it was just, yeah, it was all over the place. So I think what has really honed in on us is having like one central depository of like information that's really truly vetted. So it's not just like from third party and stuff like that, but we also put in our internal information, like I said, from like those gong calls, from win-loss, from like just conversations that sellers are having, and showing like, okay, maybe this one feature we lost this one deal on, but in the grand scheme of things, we're actually not being pushed out of the market because of it. So I think that has just really helped to have like a holistic view on where we truly stand in the market against our competitors. And that truly has really helped us with like our roadmap and our planning, and not trying to like put out little fires, but being like, okay, steadfast and like, this is our vision. And this is, I know this is where we're going to go forward, and not being pulled away in multiple places.
Okay, this is really interesting. I think this is just the push-pull that all of you have to face. Is we started off the bat, we want to show value. What can we do first? Big fire. But then at the same time, Sarah's like, loud rep, loud voice, this is urgent. If we're not careful, that might be where it takes our attention. Like, how do you navigate that push-pull, Andrew?
Yeah, I think to build on what Sarah said, it's win-loss is a great starting point, because we can all have really strong opinions and really loud voices, but ultimately, like, we're logging numbers in the same system, and we're all responsible for the inputs and ultimately the outputs that come out of that. So I think that as like a steering device is really powerful, and it helps us align on like, okay, here's the most volume, maybe here's the most revenue, and then we'll pick, usually they're aligned, but sometimes they're not. And so we'll pick the top 5 of those, and we'll say like, hey, very clearly, this is what we see in the data. If you think the data is wrong, it's on all of us. It's incumbent on us to make sure that we're correcting that data. And then from there, I think it's just like name the public enemy. Like, this is our enemy, get everyone really jazzed about it. And also like really invest in delivering that. I think to the earlier point, it's like, if it's the public enemy, then we're gonna maybe like put a little personality into it. This is how we're stepping on their neck. This is what we're doing next. This is how we're gonna like really prioritize. So I think you gotta have fun with it, but you also gotta make sure that it's like really clear to everyone where your priorities lie and how that methodology came about and how they can put their finger on this scale, other than just like screaming really loudly.
Rich, how are you doing that piece of prioritization and rallying people around maybe a common goal, rather than, hey, my deal's the one that's most important and this is, everyone should care about this?
Yeah, I'd also kind of look at, Klue has a ton of great data for reporting use. So what's inside the reports for how they're using it and what competitors are being clicked on, but what type of questions are being asked inside of things like Ask Klue. So that's where I use your AI, your LLMs, to really focus on what are they thinking about, because they may not be mentioning or talking to me, but they're interacting with the system to see how they can position effectively. So I absolutely love the data, and I use it just to see who I should prioritize most.
That's super interesting. This is kind of like a feedback loop piece here. And maybe without revealing too much, like, is there something you've learned or observed through what you're seeing people search for? Because this is something we actually talked about yesterday. Like, our sellers often maybe like a single just competitor name prompt. That's how they traditionally learned. Or are they evolving into a bit of a longer prompt? Like, what are some of the things that you've observed there that then you're like, okay, this is where people are actually looking. This is where they're looking to fish, and this is where my effort should go?
Yeah, for right now, it's very focused on the basics of the competitor, but you're starting to see them be a lot more deal specific. So going into their industry, their area, the exact environment details is getting a lot more detail oriented than just what are your bullet points for this particular competitor. It's evolving, absolutely.
That's so interesting. I was literally talking to a customer yesterday that said the same thing. It's like, my first time I looked at Ask Klue queries, it was just competitor X, competitive pricing. And now you slowly see this behavioral change of like a bit more like, hey, in the context of my deal. And it's probably part of this like earning trust as well and behavioral change. Odhran, I'm going to flip to you before we get to our kind of lightning round to wrap here. But I know you mentioned as well, we've talked about systems and scaling, but That's not necessarily always the case on sort of deal support. So how do you approach that?
For sure, yeah. And I think systems are super important. They become more and more important the more data and the more deal flow, the more reps, the more competitors that you have. At Cresta, it's a smaller team with a smaller number of deals, larger size, but smaller raw number of them, which means the data is not, I guess, as high resolution, which means the systems necessarily then aren't as effective to work off of it. And for me, a big part of navigating that was just around getting in the right habits, right? So the deal support becomes kind of where the rubber meets the road, where you're testing out the messaging that you think is right in sort of a live situation. Does it land with the prospect or not? Does the rep kind of like recoil at it or not? Like, are they confident in going and putting this in front of someone whose trust they're trying to win in a meeting? And just getting in the good habit of taking all of the learnings from each and every one of those individual cases of deal support and feeding those back into the machine, using those to update a battle card or a position, using those to update talking points. Doing that has been just like a big force multiplier for the way that we approach things at Cresta, because we don't have, I guess, the quality or resolution of data to do it in a properly data-driven way.
That's interesting. It's almost like you have a system running. You don't have to be like a librarian organizing everything now. You can go and bring your own like inputs into this system that you've established.
For sure.
Okay, let's get some lightning rounds here to wrap up. I'm going to go to Sarah, you first. What's one thing CI pros should do to earn seller trust faster?
I think just give them really pointed, trusted intel. I find that if you don't, if you don't give the sellers something that's actually useful, or if they don't really pass the sniff test, or they think this is kind of like BS, they just won't trust in it. So I think just make sure your intel is accurate and it's really usable, and something that maybe they wouldn't know. I feel like that always really helps. Like if it's something that they're a little bit taken back by, or they didn't know that, that was the issue with the competitor or something like that, I think they really do appreciate that.
I'll go around the horn for everyone here quickly. I know we've talked about AI and some of the ways in terms of it's helped. What is one Klue AI insight, one of the automated insights that you value the most, and why? I'll start with you, Andrew, and then we'll go around the horn.
My favorite is the win stories. Our sellers love the referential, like, hey, this person bought us. You don't have to believe my words. You can believe what this person said. And then even better, A+ if we can connect them.
Rich?
I think Ask Klue in general, the responses that the field uses, again, 40% of all interaction is with Ask Klue. It's crazy.
Odhran?
What prospects are saying. Our competitors are super guarded about product details, roadmaps, pricing, everything. Our best source of information is people who have seen demos or who have come over from one competitor to another. And so all that information is just hidden in gong calls. Being able to systematically automate it, extract it, and put it on a card is a game changer.
What do you use that for once you get that information?
That feeds the whole system, right? It feeds Ask Klue, it feeds battle cards, it feeds win-loss analysis. It's just more data, more data points to kind of feed in. I know we kind of mentioned that the resolution we have in terms of usage is not great, but the resolution in terms of insights, anecdotes that come from the field, that's been a real step up.
Sarah?
Yeah, I would say for us, it's definitely the win-loss. I've gotten a lot of great just intel of what really matters to our market from those conversations that I've had with them. So that's, definitely that.
What is, Rich, what's one metric that will matter most for CI in the future?
The only metric that matters is revenue. In reality, we're not, I think about product, and I've been using product as being my crutches for a long time, but you have to think outside of just product for competitive intel. There's win-loss, there's customer success. Taking all of these as tools is going to be where the future kind of holds.
Odhran, what's your take there? What's one metric that will matter most for compete in the future?
I had a hot take here around like deflection and automated answer rate, but Rich is right. Like, we're marketers, we care about influence revenue at the end of the day. Like that's got to be the North Star at all times.
Okay. And then last one for Andrew and Sarah, I'll give this one to you. What's one bold prediction you have for CI that will occur over the next 12 to 18 months?
So I would say, like, if our industry is like not the most tech forward is where I'll start. We work with fleets, so like maybe not on the cutting edge of technology. And we are starting to see customers who are coming to us who are like, I found Fleetio via ChatGPT, and I want to know these questions. And it's like, whoa, that's way deeper than where the conversation started previously. And if you're AI SEO or whatever that is, I need to polish up my terms there. If that isn't really nailed down and you're not appearing there, that can kind of put you out of the race before you even
That's interesting.
begin.
And also buyers are coming in far more educated potentially as well into that deal cycle rather than just taking the call. Sarah, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it through a lens of like an internal CI program. I think just with how rapidly AI is moving, I think it's just going to free up a lot of space for like creativity and how we deliver our CI program. You know, we're already moving away from like static intel and working towards more of like an interactive, dynamic tools. And gosh, I imagine like even the future being like a rep logging into a system and it says like, hey, you know, I know all your deals. Like, how can I help you with this deal? I listened to your last call. Like, here's some key objections that I can help you prep for. Or a BDR logs in and they kind of already know like, hey, these are like the points that I'm going to talk to about these sellers. So I just feel like that's where all of this is going.
The customizability, you can do like personalization almost at scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this was awesome. We covered so much ground here. I appreciate all four of you hopping on. Folks, connect with connect with everyone. I know they're all on LinkedIn. They're in on our community here too, so you can send them a message. And thank you all for taking the time and the folks in attendance too. These will be recorded as well, and we will send them out after the fact. But Rich, Odhran, Andrew, Sarah, thank you so